Hello and welcome to our training. Today we're going to be talking about tools to increase happiness and well-being and how you can implement that in your life and with your family. But to start off, I'm Caitlin. I am an intern at Scare and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
I'm Chelsea and I'm also an intern at Scare and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
So today we're going to be talking about a concept called positive psychology. So a lot of people hear this and think psychology and it sounds like it's going to be really complex. I promise it's not, but we're going to get into how you can implement this into your life and what that looks like and how you can utilize it to improve your life. But basically, positive psychology is focusing on the good things in your life and how to increase those. So whether that's things, qualities about you already, ways you spend your time, important people in your life, it's the idea of that we're not going to fix the bad, but we're just going to kind of work towards the good to recognize the good that's already there and improve the good.
So first we're going to start talking about, I'm going to go over what we're going to do. So we're going to talk about positive relationships within our families or out within our communities and how those relationships impact us, and kind of talk about the strengths we notice within certain family members or other important people in your life. And we're going to create a tree of positive relationships, and we'll get more into that later. And then we also are going to talk about positive emotions and kind of naming those emotions other than happiness or happy. And with that, we're going to create a positive emotions flower, and we'll get more into that as well. And then we also are going to talk a little bit about mindfulness and staying in the present moment and do a little bubble activity. And after that, I'm going to lead you into a meditation as well.
Yeah, so we have quite a bit planned, and we'll wrap it up with some more things that you can kind of just add into your daily life if this is something that interests you. There's a lot of great ways to implement positive psychology into your everyday that allows you to really flourish in your life and just add, again, increase those positive things that are already there.
Yeah, so first we wanted to talk about just positive relationships and kind of identifying who those people are in our lives. So, for example, for me, I know that my friends are really important to me, and like surrounding myself with my friends really makes me happy. And my best friend, she has a lot of strengths, and one of her strengths that I'm just thinking about right now is that she's really, really caring. I don't know, Caitlin, if you like think about any of like the
Yeah,
people in your
I
life.
think something important to think about is just how it affects you when you're around people. When you spend time with people, how do you feel when you leave spending time with them? Do you feel better? Do you feel optimistic? Does it stress you out? And reflecting on those can really help you kind of look at the quality of your relationships and maybe, if it is negative, maybe some boundaries need to be set. Maybe you need to protect your space a little bit and not spend so much time with them, but also looking, okay, like I feel really happy when I'm with my best friend. How do I make sure that I can go grab a coffee with them every Saturday? How do we make this a regular occurrence so that you can really build upon those connections because really it's hard to make time for relationships. We know that. And it's hard to maintain those positive friendships, especially, we're all busy with work or school and kids are in school and all these things going on. So making sure you have these positive people around you can be really helpful.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything big. We can do small things with people in our lives, like, and I think we've talked about this in the past too, just like going on walks with people that are important to us, and that can kind of start building like positive connections as well.
Mm-hmm. I know, like Chelsea and I both work remotely for Scare, so sometimes we have a phone call in the middle of the day just to see how things are going and consult and just go over things. And that's a really positive impact on my day because it kind of breaks up the day. I get to talk to my friend and my coworker, and it's just a little positive piece. So making the time and effort to do that, even if I'm in the middle of making a coffee or maybe I'm on my walk or whatever it may be, can be really easy. Even if it's just for 10 minutes, it does add this positive factor to my day that I might not have otherwise. Which is something you might want to consider. A lot of people are working from home right now or out of work at home, and think about how much social interaction you're getting. And can you FaceTime a friend? Can you call? Even, messaging a friend, sending a meme, or, intentionally spending some time with your kiddos and looking at what that looks like and how to have some positive socialization within each day.
So one thing that's really or coming to mind for me is just the people that we live with, and kind of thinking about the positive things about those people in our lives, because we can't necessarily change those people who we live with or we're always around. So just identifying just little things that you notice about those people that kind of like increase your mood or make you happy or you enjoy about them, can be really helpful to start building connections with them, even when sometimes it can be hard.
Yeah, and I think, as we know, we all, we're human, we get irritated, we get annoyed with whether it's family, coworkers, or people we're around a lot. And you really, you have an impact on each other's mood because you are spending the most time around each other. But an easy way to kind of offset this is stop for a minute when you feel like, you're going to complain about something. Oh, you never do the dishes, you never do this, and think of something positive they do. Maybe they never do the dishes, but maybe your roommate is fantastic about taking out the trash. Highlight these positives because our brains have something called a negativity bias. So what that means is we inherently see the bad, we see the negative, and that feels just disproportional all the time. So we have to intentionally see the positive. So challenging yourself when you feel that negative come on, when you feel the frustration, irritation, and once you've coped with those feelings and regulated yourself, going, okay, how can I shift this, right? Because we can't always change the behavior. Unfortunately, people are going to do things and we can't control everything outside of ourselves, but we can control how we see it and how we think about it. And I think for me, that's been a really great way, especially throughout the pandemic and being home in a small space with lots of people. It's a lot easier to live with people when you're focusing on those positives, thinking of things to be grateful for, even if it's been a minute, and realizing maybe having compassion for some of the things they're going through. Maybe they haven't been so helpful with dinner or whatever it may be, but maybe they've been really overwhelmed with their job. Maybe they've been really overwhelmed helping out with the kids or whatever it may be, and finding those spots where you can be compassionate and patient and really highlight how are they a positive person in your life. Nobody is all good or bad necessarily. So how do we highlight on those good things? Because we wouldn't want someone to focus only on our bad traits as well.
Yeah, and also I think it's important to be kind to yourself, and it's okay if like you do get overwhelmed or you're irritated with like a family member. That's just normal. We're all going to get really like irritable or irritated with each other because like Caitlin said, we've been at home. So there are going to be times where it feels really, really hard to be positive or find something positive about that person in that moment because you're feeling overwhelmed. And that's okay too. Maybe just notice that. Just notice like what's coming up for you. And like Caitlin said, try and take a step back and then be intentional about maybe thinking about something positive in that moment.
So now we're going to get into our first activity. So this is called the Tree of Positive Relationships, as we talked about. So you should have a bag similar to this one from Scare. And in that bag, you're going to have a couple different things. So you should have a couple pieces of cardstock paper. It might be various colors, but you'll be needing this. And then you are also going to have a glue stick. And then you will have a couple of markers to work with. Feel free to add other colors or pens or markers, even stickers, or make this fun for the kiddos and add art stuff you have at home to decorate it. And then you should have some bubbles as well. And then you will need some scissors for this activity. So we're going to start leading you through this activity. And again, it's called the Tree of Positive Relationships. So this is kind of the finished product that we are looking for. So I know that's reversed due to the recording, but so we're going to work on this as we kind of talk about some of these concepts and lead you through it. So first, you're going to want to grab a piece of paper each. So I'm going to use some yellow paper for this. And then you're just going to want to draw a tree. So you want to have a tree trunk and a couple of branches. And then as you see here, you're going to want kind of separate areas of the bushels right here. So about 5 or 6 should be a good amount because we want to kind of have one to represent each positive person in your life. So however many that is for you, maybe it's a lot more. Maybe there's a lot of branches and a lot of different leaves coming off of it. Feel free to get creative with this part and involve your kids as well.
And then just leave space in the little bushel so you can write inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And a space in the middle of the trunk as well. So we're just drawing our trees now.
You can see I have the tree trunk, and then I'm going to put 3 people, so I put 3 branches. And I've got 3 of the little leaf bunches popping off. And then I'm going to put a line on the tree trunk as well as in each of the little leaf bunches. So what you want to do on each of these is you're going to want to put your name here. If you're doing this as a family, you could just put your last name and then put family. Like if you're doing it with everybody in your family, that would be okay. You can have your kids make each of their individual ones. You make your own, depending on how you want to do it. You kind of have some freedom there. And then you're going to put each positive person in your life and put them in your little blurbs. So then you're going to have each of these. So I have them labeled best friend, partner, mom, and then my name. So the cool thing about this is that getting into, this state of doing a craft and like doing this art is actually gets you into the state of flow. So flow is kind of this idea where you're doing something that you're kind of good at, but it's a little challenging and you kind of get out of your head a little bit. So for some people, this might be cooking. This may be traditional dance, drum circles, things of that sort. It could be a different sport or activity or a musical instrument. But it's kind of this way to check out from your brain. It may be something that you're talented at, but it's just a little bit challenging, but you're good enough at it and confident enough at it that you kind of get out of your state of mind, right? And that's kind of a great way to relieve stress and improve those positive feelings, especially carving out time for that, in your day to day.
Yeah, I don't know, Caitlin, if you've ever experienced flow, but I know that I used to play soccer and I remember experiencing flow and didn't know that it was flow. So maybe sometimes we're unaware of like when we're experiencing flow because we don't know what it is yet. And so in trying with different things too, it takes time to kind of realize, oh, when I'm in a flow state. And when you do experience flow, it can be really, really helpful to kind of, like Caitlin said, just focus in on one thing and you're really, really good at it. And it makes you feel really, really good.
Yeah, it boosts your confidence.
Yeah.
I think it reduces your stress because you're not, I know when I get really into cooking a meal that I don't really think about things. I find that a really good way to unwind after a long day. It's a little bit challenging for me. I'm not the best cook in the world, but I'm good enough that I enjoy it. It's not too challenging and it gets my mind off things. It's just the right amount of challenge and just enough for me to have to be mindful about what I'm doing. I can't be scrolling on my phone or watching TV while cooking dinner. I kind of have to focus on the things on the stove and the things in the oven and pay attention to what I'm doing. And I think you can even get into this state on things that are kind of everyday activities that to kind of check out and be mindful about and notice opportunities to be mindful when you're cleaning up the kitchen after dinner, when you're doing your bedtime routine. Different things of that sort offer this opportunity where we don't typically think to be mindful and recognize, that feeling in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have your people written here, you're going to identify a strength about them and why you think that that's their strength. So some examples might be, for me, I would say my mom is resilient because she always gets back up from the things that she's faced. Or my partner is optimistic because he always looks at the bright side. Or my best friend is caring because she's a very dedicated teacher. So we want you to be really intentional about this and think, what traits do the people around me have? What good qualities do they bring to the home? Do they bring to my life? Do I see every day? What do I respect them for? What do I admire about them? What do I wish, some of these traits I could take on might be?
Yeah, and this is important because maybe we've never really slowed down to really think about these kind of character strengths or strengths within our loved ones or family members. And we all have them. We all have strengths about or within ourselves, and it's really important to identify those with the people we surround ourselves with. And for me, I put my brother, my dad, and my partner as well. And so for my brother, I put creative, and he's creative in many different ways. He loves to write poems, and that makes other people happy and like smile and laugh. And then I put my partner is brave. He's always doing things that I wouldn't do, but also that kind of like encourages me to be brave. And then I put my dad is kind. He's a really kind person and is always there for others. And so these are things that like I really don't take enough time to kind of acknowledge too. And I notice when I do acknowledge this to these people, they're happier too.
Yeah. And I think really taking a moment to point those out again, that negativity bias of our brain, our brain wants to point out everything going wrong in our lives with people around us, but like take a minute to go, wait, okay, so they forgot the chicken in the grocery store, but they still grocery shopped after a 10-hour day at work, and they did this for me, and they got the kids, and they helped with the bedtime routine and whatever it may be, and really focus on, what's going right. It's easy to look at everything going wrong, and it's much harder to look at what's going right, but it can have a lot of benefit, especially with ourselves too. So I encourage you to put, when you put these traits underneath their names, put one under your name as well. So what trait do you have? I put that I'm hardworking because I'm really dedicated to all the things I set out to do. And, I work hard for the things I've achieved. And I'm really proud of that fact about myself.
Yeah. And I didn't write my name, but I will now. And I put caring. And I put caring because I really try and have empathy about those around me. So yeah, and I feel like also empathy is a really big one in terms of like trying to be empathetic towards those who are in our lives, because like one said, we're all busy, we're all having bad days sometimes, we're all going through it. So empathy and being caring, compassionate towards not only ourselves but others around us is important.
So some questions that you might want to think about as you do this activity and complete it. I'm going to just read them off to you. The first is, can you identify people in your tree who have helped you develop your strengths? So this may be family members, it may be your community, it may be even a spiritual being. The next one is, do you have any strengths that are also in your loved ones' top 5 strengths? So just think about, do you have any similar strengths as others? Do you have very different strengths? How is that helpful in your life? How does that make things challenging? How can you maybe nourish some of those other strengths you'd like to have? Are there any specific patterns in terms of strengths among your close relationships? So do you tend to have all friends and family who are empathetic? Do you have all friends who are hardworking? Do you feel like this is a good balance for you? Do you have a really balanced group of friends and family that, some are creative, some are helpful, some are imaginative, some are hardworking? And maybe what that looks like. How does that impact you? Are you looking for someone with different strengths? Do you wish you had friends with more kindness, or maybe a friend who's really good at listening, or a friend who is really fun? That can be a strength in itself. And do you have any strengths that no one else in your tree of strengths has? So do you have something different that stands out? And maybe what makes that special? Maybe take a minute to sit with that. That makes you unique, and why is that? And how did you come to gain that strength? And how can you use your strengths together to make relationships stronger? So, like I was saying, reflecting on if you have a lot of similar different relationships, how can you use that to improve things? If you're really empathetic and someone's really hardworking, well, maybe the hardworking person can assist you in learning some discipline around or boundaries around work and things like that. And maybe you can help them learn to be more empathetic with the people around them, learn to be an active listener. There's so much that we can all offer each other if we just, take a minute to notice it and really highlight those strengths we have. So you can go ahead and ponder these things and take a minute, and feel free to pause the video throughout and talk to your kids about this, talk to your family members or a friend, reach out. And you can hang this positive relationship tree on your fridge or somewhere everybody can see in the house so that you can regularly look at it. Maybe even, go back to it in 6 months and think about, has this changed? Are the relationships in your life the same? Has anything improved? Were you looking to change anything and you didn't? But feel free to use it as kind of a tool for reflection on your well-being as well.
Okay, so we already talked a lot about positive relationships and strengths. So we're going to switch gears and talk about positive emotions. And really, emotions are a state of mind or feelings that influence our thoughts and behaviors. So sometimes it can be hard to identify positive emotions because we can often be really stuck in the bad, or like how bad we're feeling, or the negative emotions. So one way to kind of begin identifying positive emotions is just notice what's going on for you inside your body. Maybe, and notice the positive ones. Maybe you're feeling, because it can be easy to kind of fixate on the negative, like tension in our body, but maybe try and be intentional about noticing when you feel relaxed in your body, or you feel warm in a certain part of your body, or what makes you smile. Those are simple ways you can start identifying positive emotions. So it's really important to just notice what's going on in your body, because your body can tell you a lot about how you're feeling and what emotions you're feeling, especially if you have a hard time identifying what's going on for you.
I know for me, I notice really easily about negative emotions. Like if I have a tightness in my chest or if I feel kind of like there's a weight on my shoulders, sometimes we literally feel that way. And that can be a way to start identifying, what ways am I stressing? Or maybe some people with health conditions, somatic things stir that up. I know for me, I very easily get hives. And if I'm really stressed, that happens on the spot. So noticing those things and taking a minute to go step back from what's happening and take note of what's going on in your life. Are there stressors? When's the last time you filled your cup? What feelings are happening for you? Because it's really easy to detach from both your body and your emotions on a daily basis just because we're so busy. There's so much going on. It's not easy to take the time to step back and go, okay, what's happening internally? What are we feeling in this outside world? How is that affecting me? So I know that one way that I do this is before bed. When I'm just laying in bed, I kind of just notice areas that I feel tension and kind of relax them and just like ease into that feeling and just really focus, savor that, savor that relaxed muscles that you've probably tensed all day. I know sometimes we hold our shoulders really tight. Like take a second to really like let those go. Drop your jaw, because we hold a lot of tension here. We hold tension in our shoulders, and just taking minutes to really relax your body is a way to kind of increase those positive feelings, because once we relax our body, it signals our brains, oh, I'm safe, I'm okay, nothing bad is happening. It can be a safety signal for us and really provide a sense of calm. That being said, something to think about when we're talking about positive emotions is how do we name them? What do we, once we have these states, how do we learn to name them and provide a space to figure out what they mean? Because a lot of times we just say happy or I'm okay, I'm good. And as much as I'm okay and I'm good are perfectly okay responses, they're not exactly emotions. It doesn't really give a name to how we're feeling.
So like Caitlin said, sometimes it can be hard to kind of identify positive emotions or just any emotion in general. And one thing that I noticed that's helpful is something called the emotion wheel, which you all can look online or Google just emotion wheel, and a big wheel will come up and it will show different primary emotions, secondary emotions, and I think, is there third? Three?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we want to focus on the primary and secondary emotions on there. And that can be a really helpful way to start identifying or naming some of the emotions that are going on within your body for you. And we're going to talk about the flower of positive emotions. This is the activity you all will be doing. And you're going to have a piece of cardstock paper, and then first just draw. We're going to draw a flower, but just draw the stem. And then you should have more paper in there to cut out petals for your flower. And also we want you to draw a big circle in the middle and just write positive emotions so you know what this is. And then maybe use the emotion wheel if you do have a hard time identifying positive emotions, just to help you find other words that are not, like Caitlin said, like just happy or okay. So for example, do you want to show yours?
So you're just going to draw a circle and then kind of a stem and some leaves, and feel free to decorate it however much you want. Have your kiddos get some art crafts and get all the things out and really make this a fun activity. It's a really great way to get them to learn to name their emotions too. And I encourage you to involve them as much as you can.
Yeah, and maybe even ask, like if you have kiddos at home, maybe ask them like where they feel in their body a certain emotion, and have them practice naming the emotion as well, using the emotion wheel, or just see what they say, because oftentimes kids do know what they're feeling, but they might just need a little help. And so the emotion wheel could be a great way to help them with naming. So
So you're gonna just take another piece of cardstock and cut out some petal sizes that you're gonna place around the circle. So I'm just gonna cut some of those out.
I'll just do one. And on our flower, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 petals, but it's okay if you have less than 8 or you have more than 8. If you can name and identify more emotions, that's great.
Now I have my petals glued down, and we're gonna write positive emotions in each of these. So I'm going to put relaxed, peaceful, warm, optimistic, and things like that I associate with being happy and positive. But you can do whatever feels good for you. Kiddos might choose more exciting and buzzwords like excited and ecstatic and things like that. And feel free to just have fun with it. And maybe even they have other representations of positive emotions, like fuzzy or things like that. And that's okay to use those too.
Yeah, and something else we wanted to kind of touch on is something called toxic positivity. And sometimes we can unintentionally tell those around us, especially our kiddos, to be happy all the time, or we place this expectation on others to always be happy, when in reality, sometimes it's not realistic. It can be hard. We're all going through a lot. And so like with our kiddos, telling them, don't cry, or it wasn't that bad, or you don't have a reason to be sad, things like that. And so those things can be harmful when we're saying those to our kiddos, even when we're not trying to harm them or be intentional in that way. They don't know. And maybe in that moment they are feeling really, really sad, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so letting them take up that space to maybe feel sad is really important too.
Yeah, and letting them have those that full breadth of negative emotions allows them to also have the full length of positive emotions as they grow older. So helping them name them, if your kid's feeling sad, saying, hey, I see you're feeling sad. I see you're frustrated. Maybe they're throwing a tantrum. I see you're angry. And, taking a minute to reconnect with them and see how you can reroute that. And maybe, once they're calmed down, I see you've calmed down. You seem relaxed. And I notice your breathing has changed. Do you notice that? Your tummy's not going out as far when you breathe. Maybe they're not breathing so hard, or maybe you feel your heart rate, it's not beating as fast. So helping them recognize those body signals for how does it change when they're up here to when they go back down here and they're at peace and they're happy. Or maybe, they're doing something really exciting and they feel their heart race, and that can feel similar to when they're angry or frustrated. And what's the difference? And you can teach them that sometimes our body has similar signals for different emotions.
And think about how it can relate back to those positive relationships or connections that you're having with your kid or with somebody else, and how positive relationships is so intertwined with positive emotions or positive feelings that we feel with each other.
Yeah, and something we can also think about this is something called glimmers versus triggers. So triggers can be, we often think about this in a mental health sense, but it can be anything, even with tantrums, going off that example, maybe being in a loud, busy place and being really tired is what causes your kiddo to have tantrums. So that would be a trigger. But maybe also, for example, you take your kid to a theme park, right? They're exhausted at the end of the day, they haven't eaten, so they throw a tantrum. But a glimmer would be the opposite. So that would be something that causes really happy emotions. Maybe they see their favorite character dressed up, or they ride a ride that they have so much fun, or they get a hug from mom at the end of the day, or they fall asleep in their car seat and they feel safe and they feel good, right? All of those things can be glimmers. So these are noticing the good things. We often notice triggers a lot, right? Because it's an immediate feeling of like, oh, I feel that in my body. But what if you took a moment to like, oh, I feel so good. The sun feels so nice today. My coffee tastes so good today. I'm really happy my friend called today. And take those moments to really highlight those good things that happen. Because if you don't, it's really hard to build those positive networks in our brains and build that up.
And notice how that changes your mood and like your overall happiness just in that day, because it can really make a difference just to be more intentional about focusing on those positive emotions, those positive connections and relationships.
And tracking those glimmers also allows us a way to increase the positive, right? If I know for me, sunshine is like the biggest glimmer for me. It makes me really happy on a bad day, even if it's cold out. It's something that really shifts my mood. So making the effort to do that consistently, even if I'm inside all day working, even if I have stuff to do, just stepping outside for 5 minutes and sitting in the sun can really shift my mood. So you should have this completed product with your little positive emotions through here and your stem and your whole flower completed. And you can put this anywhere in your house, maybe in your kiddo's bedroom. So I'm going to kind of remind them to look for the positive and continue to kind of reduce that negativity bias we all have. You should have some bubbles in your bag. They may be different colors. So grab those, and we're going to show you a video where we guide you through this activity. So just feel free to follow along with that.
I'm going to
Today's meditation is about blowing bubbles. Before we begin, let's try to relax our bodies and make them floppy, from the tops of our heads all the way down to our tippy toes. Just allow your body to continue to relax as we use our imaginations. In your mind, imagine you have a magical bubble wand. This wand looks like any other bubble wand, but it can turn your worries and bad thoughts into bubbles. You just put your worries into the bubble And with a nice big breath, blow the bubble away. Watch as the bubbles float away into the sky, far, far away. You can also try to pop the bubbles in your mind, making them disappear. You can also try this with a real bubble wand if you want to, but know that your magical bubble blower is always available whenever you need it, just by picturing it in your mind. Just keep blowing bubbles and filling them with your worries until there are no worries left, just a calm, clear sky.
Recent studies show an average person's thinking 6,200.
So as you saw in the video, you can use real bubbles like we have here, or you can just imagine yourself blowing a bubble. And this kind of teaches you to do deep breaths. So you really want to inhale through your nose and fill up your abdomen and then release through your mouth. So you can do that with real or fake. The bubbles make it real fun for kiddos. So I really suggest doing that with them. There's probably gonna be a lot of giggles, but it's a good way to teach them how to do deep breathing and how to properly control their breath.
Yeah, and breathing, I do this a lot with myself and with my clients, and breathing can be a way for us to begin learning how to even just regulate our emotions. And it's really important to learn even how to breathe. Sometimes we don't even know how to breathe, and that's the first thing I kind of like teach my clients is even by like placing their hand on their chest and then one hand on their belly, like Caitlin said, to breathing, what I call heart breath. We can start breathing just from our heart area, which is really helpful to learn how to begin breathing. So you can just like take a deep breath in, try and take a deep breath in from your heart area, and then notice how it feels when you breathe out, and like notice what your stomach is doing. And that's just a way you can begin to learn how to breathe, and just notice how your body begins to feel calm after you start doing one breath in and one breath out 3 times. And breathing can also be a helpful way for us to identify when we're feeling really anxious in our body, when we're feeling tension in our body. And we can always utilize breathing when we're not feeling
Our best.
that was funny.
Chelsea. You almost.
And breathing can be a good way, and so breathing can be a useful tool for us to use when we're feeling a lot of stress in our body or tension in our body. And we can always go toward, I can't get it out. You're gonna have to do it.
Breathing can be a really useful tool when you're feeling stressed or maybe frustrated or feeling like you're not in full control, especially of your reactions or emotions. Because it takes a minute to give you the space to choose before you react or choose before you get really overwhelmed by your feelings. So taking a minute to take that deep breath can actually be really helpful, and a helpful tool to teach your kiddos while they're young as well.
Also, breathing's helpful especially if you're a mom or a parent or a caregiver and you just need a moment to reset. I tell a lot of my clients just to like go in the bathroom and just like breathe for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever they need. Because like we said before, breathing can really help regulate our emotions if we just need that moment to reset.
Yeah, and emotions are such, this physical part is a really big part of how we feel. And something that's also a really big part of it is our thoughts. So this was a type of meditation that you can do. This is a guided meditation, but another thing you can do is use positive affirmations and do a form of mantra meditation with that. So with that, what you would do is set a timer and just repeat a mantra, basically over and over until the timer is done. So this may be 5 to 10 minutes. maybe longer if you're feeling really brave. And it could be something like, you are loved, you are safe, you are good enough, you are worthy, things like that, that maybe, there's some insecurity there and you need that kind of validation. So I encourage you to think about what kind of validation you search for from someone else, and then form it into a you are statement and give it to yourself. A lot of times we see affirmations as I am statements, but research has actually found that it's more powerful and helpful for promoting change when we use you are. So something I like to do is picture my inner child when I'm doing this, when I'm saying you are loved, you are safe, or whatever it may be. So feel free to picture yourself at a time in your life you were struggling, or maybe picture your current self. Maybe even if you have a trouble closing your eyes during this, hold a picture of yourself, look at photos of yourself. And I think that adjusting meditation can make it less scary for us. So maybe you do this while you're in the shower, or while you're on your walk, or you sit in your car. And you can also just say the mantras over and over in your head. You can say them out loud, you can whisper them, but find a way that works for you, because it can really help to shift those thoughts to be a more positive nature. Even if we don't necessarily believe them yet, that's okay. We don't have to believe everything right away. The same way that we don't have to believe all of our negative, insecure thoughts, it's okay to take some time to believe the positive ones and kind of rewire our brain to have that positivity bias that we want.
Yeah, and I also encourage you to practice this, model this with your kiddos. It's never too young to teach your kids mantras, and you'll be surprised. They'll think of their own mantras too that are meaningful to them. They might not make sense, but they're meaningful to them. And that's just a way also to build connection between you and your kid as well.
Yeah, especially, when you're going through something difficult or struggling with insecurity, modeling that on yourself or your child can be really helpful, because then when they have that, when they're older, they're going to utilize that. Instead of going to shame or negative self-talk, they're going to go to a more positive place about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe they'll also, that can be a good way for them to recognize when they're feeling like tension or stress and anxiety in their body, and they'll be like, oh, okay, I was taught to use the mantra, and that helps me feel better. That helps me feel good.
Yeah, and it'll just be natural for them. So another thing we wanted to mention that's just really helpful as we're trying to build the positive in our life is, a lot of you have probably heard of gratitude lists or daily gratitude, and sometimes that can feel a little daunting, or like you have to ignore the negative things in your life. I know for me that felt true, and sometimes we shame each other for not being grateful for things, and that feels really not good. So, but we found in psychology that naming just 3 good things about our day at the end of the day, or at some point during our day, actually has a really positive effect on our mood. So I really want to encourage you to take some time. There's actually an app for this called 3 Good Things, and you can download it, and you can set it to alert you. So you can put 3 good things in at the end of the day. So this could be anything. This could be, my kids were calm today. I had a good lunch. I got to talk to my mom, whatever it may be. I personally found it more helpful to put I am grateful for, because it causes me to be more intentional about what I'm listing. So instead of maybe, okay, the good thing was that it was nice out today, it's I'm grateful to live somewhere so warm that allows me to get sunshine every day. And that feels a little bit more powerful to me. So play around with wording and how that feels powerful to you and how that feels impactful. You could also just write this down and maybe involve your kids. Maybe each of you pick a good thing to share at the dinner table or before bed. And this is a good way, again, to help wire them for that positivity bias, because everything you do, they're picking up on and they're going to model throughout their lives.
Okay, so we are going to switch gears and do a little mindfulness meditation. So just get in a comfortable seat. It doesn't matter if you're on the couch or on your bed or in a chair. This is also suitable for kids, so you can all do it together as well. You can close your eyes or leave them open, whatever you're comfortable with. And then when you're ready, just begin to slowly breathe in and out of your nose. And again, you can start to flutter your eyelids, open and close. And if you feel comfortable, keep them closed. And then I want you to start to imagine a color. that you associate with kindness and compassion. Or a color that it has a sense of warmth, wisdom, inner strength, patience, or understanding. Again, just think of a color that kind of conveys some type of qualities of compassion or kindness. And remember to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And this color, it might only be a fleeting sense of color, and that's okay. And start to imagine your compassionate color surrounding you. And then imagine this color entering through your heart area and slowly making its way through your body. Maybe you put your hand over your heart and notice how you breathe in and out, infusing your body with the safe and supportive quality of compassion. Or you might prefer to think of the color like a mist or a light that just flows through you. As this happens, try to focus on the color as having wisdom, strength, and warmth, and total kindness. Maybe you create a facial expression of kindness on your own face as you do this. And now, as you imagine the color flowing through your throat, flowing through you, focus on the feeling that's coming up for you. Focus on the color to help you, to strengthen you, and to support you. And then just take a couple deep breaths in and out through your nose, surrounding yourself with that color of compassion and kindness. Take one more deep breath in and then out through your heart area. And then when you're ready, you can begin to flutter your eyes back open and come back.
So this is a really good opportunity to just look at how you're compassionate to yourself and how you create space to be kind to yourself and what that looks like. Maybe discuss that with your kiddos. Maybe it means taking an extra couple minutes in the shower, nourishing your body, having a treat, and looking at, how can you involve that in your everyday life and what that looks like. So we want to just thank everybody for taking time out of your busy days to watch this training and do these activities with us. We really hope that you gain some insight into how to recognize both positive and negative emotions and look at areas where you can increase positive relationships and just positive feelings and track those things in your life that are going well and going good. And just, it's okay to not always focus on these things that weigh us down and are negative. They're going to be there no matter what. It's okay to just take a break and step away from that. And we really hope this provided you some relief and happiness.
Hi everyone, we're the new interns at SCARE. My name is Dara.
And my name is Marissa.
and a little bit more about myself is that I just moved here to San Diego to be closer to family and to start a master's in mental health counseling at University of San Diego. I'm originally from New York, but I've been living in Montana for the past 4 years, where I was going to school for environmental studies, and I was focusing on sustainable food and agriculture, and I worked with local farmers out there to promote conserving water and diverse crop rotations. I was working at a local food bank just before this opportunity, and really loved giving back to my community and helping clients, but I really wanted to work more closely with my clients and promote mental health, positive mental health. So that's what brought me to this field, and I'm just really excited to get started. In my free time, I like to go hiking and be out in nature. I also like to garden, and I like to cook the veggies from my garden in vegetarian meals. And I also love to compost when I have the backyard and space.
And then a little bit more about me. I'm from the Bay Area, and from a young age, especially because my own personal experiences, experiencing mental health stigma, especially with Asian culture, I really wanted to pursue a bachelor's degree in psychology. So I went to Loyola University Chicago, and I just moved back to California to pursue a master's degree, also in clinical mental health counseling, because I really wanted to be near the coast and near the beach. And then in Chicago, I worked as a clinical administrative assistant, where I worked with a lot of clients, and I worked the front office, but I also was able to facilitate mental health group therapy sessions, and because I loved groups so much, I really wanted to facilitate more groups. And so for my undergraduate internship, I started facilitating trauma support groups for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, and I loved it so much, and I've just built so much rapport with my clients that I've continued to facilitate weekly support groups now, and so I'm just really passionate about working with clients and really empowering their mental health and their strengths. And in my free time, I really love to travel and explore new places, and I really love cooking Asian food, and I really love going to the gym and working out and feeling strong. Yeah.
Great, well, we look forward to meeting all of you next month and being at Scare with everyone.
Look forward to meeting you all.